I get buried alive for a living. Something else is down there. Part 2. I get home, and for a moment, everything blurs. I hyperventilate, pull my hair and bite my lip and pace up and down my tiny box room. I sit on the edge of my mattress, look around my room. It's a state you'd be forgiven for mistaking it for a crack den. I mean, not too long ago, a couple years maybe, it was. I'd sit where I sit now, hunched over tinfoil, or a pipe, or a handful of pills and work at what I had until my hand stopped shaking, and then I'd keep going, until they shook again. If I hadn't found this job, the only real job that would take me, My phone buzzes. It's Jake. Look, he says, whatever the fuck you pulled today, whatever you've got going on, cut it out. That wasn't funny. I tried telling him that it wasn't me, that I have no idea who, or what did that, or what it was trying to communicate. He cuts me off. Sure right. There's a beat, and, for a moment, I think that I can hear someone else on the phone, a third breath, that doesn't match ours, a slight rustle, a whispering so faint it sounds like static, and then, grow up. The line goes dead. I'm left alone to bite my nails, to try and ignore the familiar smells coming from next door, the wisps of smoke that slide their way under my door and into my pillow. Another bus, an email. It's from next of kin. It clarifies that they've had a few testers down recently, that, despite their best efforts they are short-staffed. They're offering double pay. Fuck. Part of me so desperately never wants to go back down, wants to stay away from whatever it is down there, but a few weeks of double pay and I could move out. I could settle some debts with some people who are running pretty thin on patience. I think about the noises it made, the half singing, the rasping, the sound of its nails against the wood which suddenly felt so thin. I can't sleep much, and the stretches I do snatch are filled with vague dreams, skinless hands under my mattress, men with worms for faces, the weight of the earth above. I'm told in the morning I'll be working with a different crew, that Jake's called in sick. Shit. I think he's avoiding me. I sent him a quick text, trying to smooth things over. There's no reply. I've never seen the crew before, one large man who seems perpetually wet with sweat, and a smaller figure. I can't make out much about them, their cap obscures their face, and their boiler suit is baggy. All I can make out, on the side of their neck, is a black tattoo of a moth. They're silent in the truck as we drive, and whilst the large man, who I find out is named Miller, has a cloth to wipe the sweat that beads on his face, they don't move. I'm trying to talk myself into it, to convince myself that this isn't insane, but the sounds it made, and the frenzied way the words were carved, make my chest hurt. I feel like my bones are tying themselves in knots, my ribs in neat white bows. I want to tell them to turn around, but each time I go to open my mouth I picture the numbers in my bank account, the feel of a mattress that isn't rotting. I think about not being surrounded by dope all day, not having to step over needles and baggies, to open my front door. Right, Miller says as we arrive, HQ says we are going a little deeper today, something about the policy line and the weight of dirt. I look to him, the panic evident in my eyes. He shrugs, don't ask me. I sit in the coffin, chaining cigarettes, well aware that this is my last chance to bail, that as soon as that lid's closed there's no way of getting out until they dig all the dirt they've shoveled on top of me back off. The coffin is suspended above the hole that suddenly seems so deep and wide when Miller hops out the small crane. He shouts something about needing a piss, and I can see him walk a little way to go behind the truck. The other crew member takes their chance. They walk towards me and stop. The coffin's suspended at roughly their chest height, and I can make out their features, gaunt, waif-like. The sides of their head are shaved to a close stubble, and there are purple hollows under each eye. They look at me for a moment, as if making some calculation in their head, before dropping a small bag next to me. When they speak it's hushed, and quickly. Follow the moth. You'll hear it against the glass. Buzz once you're down. They know you dream. There's a pause, and they look over their shoulder. Miller is coming back this way. They turn to me one last time. Wish there was more time. A beat. An expression crosses their face. Sadness? Regret? Sorry. And with that they're gone, and Miller calls out. I nod and close the lid. It takes longer than usual to reach the bottom, and each second is agonizing. Part of my body knows what's happening, that I'm getting further and further away from the surface, and I can feel my mind become slippery. I want so desperately to press the button, to get out as quickly as possible, but I've got to at least wait for them to cover the top with dirt. I use a lighter to examine the things that were thrown in. A small, hand-built-away radio. A glow stick. And, strangest of all, a jar with a moth inside. The moth stays still, even when it sees the flame of my lighter, and I begin to wonder if this is a prank. If Jake has told someone, and they've orchestrated this to terrify me even further, but there was something about the way they said sorry. They meant it. Once I hear the sound of dirt being shoveled grow fainter, I run through the checklist to distract myself. Sides, the top, the knee test. It works, at least, for a while, and the process of carrying out basic actions calms me a little. I don't try the radio, figure that if I get in a pinch I can, but for now I'm just here to do my job. That is, until I hear the sound. There's something different about it, this time, I think. It's further away, but as a precaution I hit the button anyway. I figure they are pretty much done heaping dirt on top of me, and it gives me time to carry out the rest of the checklist before whatever it is gets as close as it did last time. The radio buzzes, not yet. What the fuck do they mean not yet? I grab it and press the button on the side. Now, I say, get me the fuck out. Now. There's a moment of silence, and then it buzzes again. Sorry. Not yet. I start swearing, and every time I shout it sends a fresh wave of anxiety through me, makes my pulse quicken, my mouth drier. I tell them that they need to get me out right now, that they have to, that if they don't they'll lose their jobs and more. I call them every name under the sun. I hammer the button until my hand hurts. Nothing. And, growing closer, the noise. Except, now I can tell why it's different. I can tell what's changed. There are more of them. I can make out dozens of different pockets of noise, different paces and locations of the scrambling, and I realize, with a slow and certain terror, that there's a whole pack of them, and that they are moving together, through the dirt, with that strange long-fingered scratching and clawing and all humming the same sad nursery rhyme melody, all working their way, slowly, towards me. There's nothing I can do. There is nowhere I can go to. There is just the darkness of the coffin and the knowledge of all the earth above. I want to scream, but I feel that will give my position away, and holding myself back takes genuine effort, straining my chest to stop my lungs from bursting out, putting my hand over my mouth, and holding it tight, so that not a single noise escapes, and all I want so desperately is to scream, and bang the coffin, and plead to get let out, but I can't make a single noise. They grow closer. The melody swells. I'm mute with terror, my breathing shallow. They are getting closer and closer. I imagine the long fingers pulling and spasming their way through the dirt, through the rocks, and through the roots and towards me, and then comes the sound that I was dreading. Tap, tap, tap. As if confirming to the rest that this is really it, not just a stone or a dead tree. And then more. Tap, tap, tap. Tap, 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 tap. More and more and more, until it sounds less like a deliberate motion and more like rainfall. Hundreds and hundreds of fingers or appendages tapping and scratching against the side of the coffin. Harder and harder and growing more desperate each time. And I swear to God I can fucking smell them like rotten shit in mud after it rains. And the noises they make, the gurgling and the humming and the wet breathing and I think they are working their way in, scratching and pressing, and I can feel the coffin start to buckle, the sides begin to splinter. I think about what their mouths look like, feel like on me. The coffin must have shrunk, I think. I can't move. I can't even shift my body away from the side they are so desperately trying to force open. All I can do is lie in the darkness and smell them and shake. My muscles begin to cramp. My cheeks feel wet and warm, and I realize that I'm now taking huge gulps of air, and my chest is heaving, and I hear the splintering grow, and cold air on my leg, and I'm sure that they're through, that they've torn their way through finally, and it all happened so quickly, the earth shakes, I feel the sensation of falling, I roll over myself, hit my head on the lid of the coffin and my vision flashes white for a moment, there is a bang, and it's still. I'm working on instinct, I kick the lid, and to my surprise it flies open. They must not have locked it. I try to see where I came from, what just happened, but my lighter barely illuminates anything around me. On my knees, I search for what I dropped. I crack the glow stick, it sounds like the snapping of a wishbone. Red light covers the walls, makes the wet stones look like tumors. Shit, why did it have to be red? Remembering their advice, I pick up the jar in one hand. I can't carry all of this at once. I put the glow stick between my teeth, like a horse's bridle, and take the radio. The moth seems to be filled with energy now, hammering against the glass in a specific direction. I take a step forward. Look around me. I'm in a tiny dirt tunnel. It's so small that I can't stand and instead have to move whilst crouching. The sides press in on me and the earth is wet to the touch. The red light of the glow stick gives the impression of a throat, as if the walls are ever so slightly pulsing, contracting around me. The radio buzzes. Move. Now. They don't like the tunnels, but they'll follow if they know you're there. They're listening. I'm holding my breath. The world around me seems to hold its breath too. I start to crouch walk in the direction the moth's flying in. I have no other choice. I turn around one last time to see if I can spot where the coffin fell into the tunnel, and as I do I catch something gleaming in the dirt. There, exposed in the tunnel wall, is an eye. It's pinned open, pale and wide, and the pupil seems to swallow the light. I don't move. I think for a second it's missed me, but then the cornea shifts, swivels, and it stares straight at me. Somehow it widens further, as if excited, or terrified, or filled with some strange sort of pleasure at the sight of me, and then, faintly, but with an echo now, fading down the tunnel either side of me, the humming. They know. There is nothing I can do but move. As I make my way deeper and deeper into the tunnel, I hear something behind, something fall and hit the floor and the sound of scattered earth. Then movement behind me. They're here. They know where I am. The humming grows louder, and with no free hand to clamp over my mouth, I bite my lip until I taste blood and try not to scream.